Gotta do it for yourself and kicking bars since you were young. Lions on your kit, but you've been playing since a cub. When you're stepping on the pitch, you know you gotta...
Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Senegal 0, the Netherlands 2. Late goals from Gakpo and Klaassen give LVG and the Dutch their first win of the tournament. It was a game, as the commentators said, it could have been a game for the purists. It could have been a game for the purists. It really could have been. It was fairly drab at times, but Cody Gakpo getting the first from a wonderful cross, a brilliant header with the back of his head, and then some absolutely disastrous goalkeeping at the end. Disastrous goalkeeping at the end. And a weird comment here says, new music. Yes, it's the official World Cup song by Give Me Sport. So it's definitely new music, lol, at the beginning there. But yeah, disastrous from Benjamin. Is it Benjamin Mendy? Edouard Mendy. Sorry. Yeah, the wrong Mendy. Do you know what? I keep having it in my head. I'm reading about him today. Yeah, my head just went blank. I was like, what Mendy? I forgot the first name. But yeah, listen, awful goalkeeping from him. There's absolutely no doubt about it whatsoever. And he'll be legitimately embarrassed by that. And look, they're not out. There's a long way to go. I still think they're second favorites. I still think Senegal will beat Ecuador. They'll definitely beat Qatar. There's no doubt about it. But a very, very poor ending to the game for them in what was essentially two teams. I felt like neither team really wanted to go for it. They didn't want to lose this game because they see each other as number one and number two in the group. And it was almost, if we can get through this with a draw, both win our remaining games, then we're going to go through. Then there's going to be no problems. But as we've seen with Eduardo Mendy at Chelsea for a long period of time now, the guy has just lost those powers. When he came in at Stamford Bridge, I would say for a good 12 months, on form, was one of the very best goalkeepers in the Premier League, in European football. But now he just looks a shadow of himself. There's no doubt about it. Let's take a look here at some of your comments. Dyke actually thinks that Ecuador will beat Senegal. Will beat Senegal. I don't know. I don't know about that. I want some more opinions on that from you all. I really do. There's a reason why Chelsea aren't in a hurry to renew his contract. Yeah, you saw that today, 100%. Very, very poor showing from him indeed. Purple Patch, Neek says. Now, I think you're right, Neeks, bro. I think you're absolutely right. He had a great bounce when he arrived. He had a great period of time where he's pulling off excellent saves and was just playing well above himself. He demonstrated the level that he could be. But maintaining it, this guy just doesn't seem to have it for me at all. The game was almost as dead as a Conte game, is what Joshua Loveless has got to say. Bruv, I hear you on that. I'm not even like trying to like be disrespectful to Tottenham. It had that feel about it. It was like peak Jose versus Antonio Conte, but neither trying to attack, neither trying to win the game. That's definitely how it felt. Let's take a look at some more of these comments coming through here today. There's a reason why oh, sorry, I already read that one out. Mama Flossie here says, it was a poor game. You're right. You're absolutely right, Mama Flossie. It was a very poor game overall. The quality wasn't there. There's nothing even really do you know what? I don't even think we learned anything about either side. We learned that Gakpo can score with his head. We learned, or confirmed more than learned, that Mendy isn't great. But yeah, we didn't even learn too much about the teams. There's a few that quietly fancy the Netherlands for this tournament. I've seen it online. I've heard people talking about it. But yeah, it's not great. Terry, another mass exodus of the stadium, 40,000 capacity. Senegal, Netherlands have no way. Come on, that can't be right. That can't be right. They haven't done it again for tour. They can't have done that again. Mendy's been off since AFCON. Yeah, he has. There's no doubt about it. You're absolutely right. LVG, Terry. Yeah, expand on that, bro. Like sometimes your comment that always makes sense. Senegal miss Mane. Yeah, they miss Mane, but the way I looked at today's game, if I'm going to be really critical, the reason why I wouldn't be that scared of the Netherlands, if you're Brazil, if you're Argentina, even France, there isn't any real maybe when Memphis gets fully fit, but there isn't a great deal of like explosive power and strength. And with Senegal, they're good on the ball, technically gifted. They have great athleticism and size to their team, but it's that killer pass. It's that ability, as Mane has, as you say, to thread the ball through the eye of a needle, or someone that can just change things. They just didn't quite have that today. I think Senegal will be fine against Ecuador. I think they'll win. I think they'll definitely beat Qatar. But progression, like beyond the quarterfinal, I just don't see them having enough quality overall to be able to do that. England winning 6-2 versus Iran is similar to losing 3-0 to France. Okay, Terry Tibbs, thank you, bro. I appreciate that comment. Chelsea fan here says, I said the Netherlands will win anyway. I don't care about Mendy, is what he says there. The Netherlands are missing a world-class striker like RVP. I feel like they're missing that and a creator. Like who? And maybe you guys tell me who you think it's going to be. Who's going to be whether it's Robin from a wing, whether it's Wesley Sneijder from the middle, who's that guy? Who's the guy that's going to open someone up? Who's the guy that's going to move the needle for him? Who's their Saka? Who's their Grealish? Who's their Phil Foden? Like, who do you think is going to be able to do that? And maybe I just didn't see it today. And the reason I ask you is because, again, no one watching the World Cup from an English point of view is an expert on all these teams. That doesn't exist. It really, really doesn't. There's no such thing. Let's have a look at some more of these comments coming through here. What else are we saying? Senegal just need to be more clinical. They had the chances. Yeah, I mean, maybe. They had a good shot that was saved after they went 1-0 down. And maybe I just see it a little differently. I didn't feel like they did, especially in that second half. That second half was a bore fest, legit bore. Thank God for England today, giving us some entertainment. Mendy was shocking. Chelsea fans come outside is what Mohamed Ahmed has got to say to us here. I think England will go very far. So much quality. It's one game. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but I hope so. I hope we go far. The Netherlands forward are not good at all. Yeah, when you think about, again, when I grew up watching the Netherlands play, think about the players they had. I think about the strikers they had, the finishers they've had in my lifetime, the Bergkamps, the Ruud van Nistelrooys, the RVPs, the forwards, the attackers, the Robins, the Wesley Sneijers, as we've already mentioned. The midfielders, your Seedorfs, your Edgar Davids. Got Gakpo and Memphis now. Man like Dumfries running down the wing. For me, like the drop-off in the Netherlands, for me, is crazy. And I'm not saying they don't have talent. Obviously, you got young De Jong and a few others, but it ain't great. It ain't great. It's not as great as it used to be. Wolves here says Senegal were much better second half, and yes, they had chances as well. Even Terry didn't see them. I'll have to rewatch it, but I'm telling you now, watching it from my point of view, I was falling asleep. It was that bad. It was just that bad. Let's look at the statistics. I want to look at the statistics here. What do the statistics say? They had 15 shots, 4 on target. How many of them were in the... Three on target in the second half, to be fair. Do you know what's mad about that first half? Do you know the Netherlands? They had 3 shots on target in the whole game. My word. My word. That's shocking. That's actually shocking when you look at them statistics. It really is. Make sure that like button is being smashed, people. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Get that done for us right about now. Of course, Van Basten. I don't remember watching Van Basten play, though. I'm a little... Even I'm too young for that. Cheeky sons of guns. Senegal missing their star up front. Yeah, maybe. Terry, the World Cup is already farcical. They just announced an attendance at the Senegal-Netherlands game that is 1,772 higher than the capacity, and the stadium isn't even half full. Yeah. I mean, those things I don't understand why they're doing that, because the world can see they're not full. And listen, this isn't because it's in Qatar there's problems. There's problems at most of these tournaments. I mean, just look what happened at the Champions League final and Liverpool fans being allowed getting into the grounds. This happens on a regular basis that nations don't quite. Nations and towns, cities don't always have their shit together, but the announcing much higher capacity announcing more fans at a ground than they're allowed in when with empty seats, it's kind of weird to me. I don't even understand the logic. Because clubs back in the day would announce smaller attendances than they really had so they could get away with paying less tax because everyone would pay cash to get into the grounds. So let's just say like your stadium takes 10,000 people and 9,000 turn up and pay cash. If you say the total attendance was 8,500, you might be able to get, 500 to 1,000 people's ticket through as cash that you just keep. You don't pay tax on it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to add. Maybe someone can enlighten that to me. A super chat here says the Netherlands defense is solid. They may not win, but they are going far in the tournament. VVD and Ake, very solid. Mark their forward out the game. I thought VVD looked shaky. I thought he looked rather shaky in this game. But maybe that's just my Man United bias coming through. We're going to bring on two Liverpool fans to speak to us now to have their say. Look, John, I don't know why you're laughing, John. It's true. People think I'm laughing at the Qataris. I'm not. Like it ain't deep for me. I saw Melissa Reddy's report this morning how they said there was 41,000 people at a 40,000 stadium and people leaving early to avoid traffic. Not in the 50th minute. Surely the traffic's not that bad. If it is, one thing I'd say, when London hosted 2012 Olympics, I still had to work in that time. The trains run like clockwork. The roads were pretty clear. Like, you got to get the infrastructure right. If they haven't, then they do need to be criticized for it. The same as you would criticize any nation around the world. They have to be. And that's kind of part of like hosting these events is how good the football is, but it's how good the amenities are, how good the travel is, how good the vibe is, the feel, the party and festival atmosphere. These are what you get judged on. So I'm really sorry to say this to people. If you host an event, you're going to get judged. You're just going to get judged. It's the way the cookie crumbles. It's the way the cookie crumbles, my friends. Right. Let's bring out the boys here to have their say. We've got Tom and Ram here with me. How's it going, gentlemen? You all right?
All good.
Good. Give me your thoughts on that. I mean, did you both stay awake, first of all? Were you both awake?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I thought something was going to happen, but firstly, I need to say that starting lineup just looked a bit odd to me. I think the starting lineup was completely wrong. I think that midfield was completely wrong. I wanted Koopmeiners to start because not only is he a very good player, but he complements Frenkie de Jong. And you're talking about the guy that was meant to thread the eye through the needle ball. That was meant to be Steven Berghuis. But Berghuis ain't a centre midfielder. He's usually a right winger, and he don't have the legs to go up and down that midfield. So there's one mistake. And that front line, was it, if I'm mistaken, was that Vincent Janssen? The old
That was Vincent Janssen, Tottenham Forth.
I forgot he played football. I honestly forgot he played football. I don't know why he's still on that page.
This tournament's just bringing them all back. Enner Valencia, Vincent Janssen. I need to do a sweepstakes on which other former Premier League striker I haven't thought about for 5 years is going to rock up next game.
I don't know.
Luis Suarez.
At least he has a bit of quality.
He was world class. Yeah, he was. In terms of the Netherlands, they're seen by some as being one of the favourites for this. Did you see enough from them today? Or no. I know they got the 2 goals. Gakpo took his goal well, but do you see enough from them?
No. If they come up against a goalkeeper that is competent, they're not scoring either goal. Both of them goals were massively helped by the fact that Edouard Mendy had a stinker. That Netherlands team doesn't look great. I don't know what about left back. Was that Daley Blind doing up left wing back? That was Daley Blind doing left wing back.
Do you remember
Matthijs de Ligt?
Matthijs de Ligt Daley Blind at the Champions League at left back. That's how bad it was.
Daley Blind was doing up left back in 2016. It's now 2022. Matthijs de Ligt looked shocking. He was all over the place. The midfield, like you said, Steven Berghuis is not a centre mid. And I know the Pies carrying a bit of an injury, but they just looked a bit. There was not an attack. They were always trying to do one too much. Even when they had that big chance with De Jong in the first half, nicely worked move. Yeah, he tried to take it past 2 or 3 players instead of just getting that shot off. I don't see with this Netherlands team, if they're going to go far, where their goals are going to come from. I just don't see. I can't look at that Netherlands team and go, "There's a player who's going to get you 4 or 5 goals and get you through some of these games." I
The
don't see it.
best word to describe this Netherlands team is that you said it, Terry. They lack a lot of bite. They lack bite in that final third. Like there's no poacher in there that could get a goal. And even then, if they're playing a 2 up front, their shadow striker's not even that great. Like Memphis Depay, even when he came on, his touches was no good. Even when he was dribbling with the ball,
Yeah.
he's just no good. His pace, there's not a lot of pace. I don't know what he offered.
I think with Memphis, I mean, if he hadn't spent 2.5 months out injured, he'd be different. But he's literally going to spend this tournament trying to get match sharp. And we've seen it. Look, again, Beckham and Rooney are standout examples for England, and I'm sure other nations people can draw examples from. But when you bring unmatched fit play, it's a little different with Maddison if he's got a knock and he can get through it because he's still match fit. He's been playing regularly. Not play for 2.5 months, come to a World Cup. The pressure on him is high, but you're right. They have no bite, and they don't have enough for me athleticism in their team. Like football has changed over the past 10 to 15 years, and that's where we know for a fact, for instance, Brazil, who are everybody's favorites this year, they've got that. They've got a ball ability, and they've got speed, and they've got power in their team. You need I think you just need in modern day football, the favorites for these tournaments for me are going to have all three. You can't just be tiki-taka football like 15 years ago. You can't just be all strength and pace. It has to be a combination of the two things together now for me to be the serious contenders for this tournament. And Netherlands might improve. They might show us something different. But yeah, for me, it ain't quite right. I want to ask. Go on.
Sorry, Ted. That's why the lineup confused me because I saw Malacia on the bench, and like Malacia is pretty pacey, pretty decent as a left wing back. I don't know why he didn't start. And you're talking about intelligence. Koopmeiners didn't play until he came on. There just is all these. That starting 11 just didn't make any sense to me. Like, and then when they brought the players on, they looked a little bit better. So it's like, I don't know why Louis van Gaal didn't play that sort of lineup in the first place, but we'll have to wait and see with these Netherlands team, man. We have to wait and see.
Yeah, we certainly will. I wanted to ask you both your thoughts on Virgil van Dijk's performance today.
I'll let you go first, Tom.
It was all right. It's not the levels that I expect from Van Dijk, but I haven't seen them all season, so I'm not shocked that he didn't just switch it on. He was just all right. I know he had that little moments when Frenkie de Jong passed it to him and he was stretching. He had good moments, he had bad moments, but he needs to learn to start scoring his free headers from corners. Oh my good God. The man is 6'4", he outjumps everyone, and he cannot put one of them on target this season. So just start doing that, and you'll end up with loads of goals. He missed a big one today, but it was just, it is what it, that's what I've seen from Van Dijk. So
Tom, that's the surprising thing. That's his bread and butter. That's one of the reasons why we won the league and Champions League, because he's so dominant in the air, both defensively and offensively. And right now, he can't score a goal to save his life, even when it's a free header. It makes no sense. I thought he was okay. Like, his performances today were better than what he produced for Liverpool, but it's like there's no point in like comparing the two because he's been shocking for us. But he was all right.
No, I hear. Listen, and it's the one thing I would say is, and look, England started very well today, and we'll talk about that more in the roundup show tonight. But you don't always want to start the tournament at your very best. You sometimes maybe want to start a little like this and get better as you move on and peak later. You don't want to peak at the beginning. And trust me, young men watching, you never want to peak too soon. You never, ever want to peak too soon. Samuel's with us as well. What are you saying, Sam?
Yeah, I just watched the match, and how would I put it? That easily could have been a 0-0 game. Netherlands had the ball a lot of the time, but they were doing absolutely nothing with it. I mean, that striker in the first 70 minutes, I think his name was Janssen or something like that. Yeah. I don't understand why Van Gaal even started him, because he's quite dead. But with Senegal, it's literally because they conceded because of mistakes. Mendy, that was poor, very poor. A top goalkeeper should be handling that and that's keeping it to his chest, not parrying it away, especially in the position that he parried it away to. That's a rookie error. Koulibaly wasn't even too. He was shaky a lot of the times. When they were bringing long balls towards him, he was losing it in key areas. But with Netherlands, it's the first game, so I won't read too much into it. And they've got 3 points, which is the good thing. And they were the favourites to actually come first out in the group. But I do need to see a lot more from Netherlands. They need to be a lot more decisive and clinical for them to even go far, because I see them getting knocked out in the last 16 if they carry on playing like this. But we'll see later on.
Mate, I hear you on that, and I think that there's still a long way to go, and that's why no one should get. I mean, ironically, at the Euros, Italy were the best team in the first round of games. First match they won and ended up winning it, so there was a reason to get hyped. But yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see what they. I just look at the Netherlands and think to myself, never won a World Cup, and by the looks of what I see, their squad and everything going on, I just can't see them doing it. But it doesn't mean they won't go deep into the competition and everything else. I wanted to get your boys' opinion. I know there'll be no love loss. You know, Edouard Mendy, only a year ago, you would have got, I reckon, a good 40, 50, maybe more % of Chelsea fans tell you that he's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, one of the best in Europe. His drop-off since AFCON, so nearly 12 months ago now, has been ridiculously bad, hasn't it?
I mean, I'm going to let Ram go with it first.
So firstly, I want to say, Chelsea fans, you're idiots thinking that Alisson was worse than Edouard Mendy. Like, give your head a wobble for that, firstly. But secondly, is like, I noticed one area in his game which was really poor, which was his distribution and his ability with the ball at his feet. And everyone knew that, and that's why everyone pressed him, and that's why he looked a little bit scared when he was with the ball at his feet. But now it's something a lot worse. Like, his decision making has been absolutely poor. He wasn't as decisive to get to the ball in the first and for the first goal, for Gakpo's goal. And that second one, like I said it in the group chat, Depay has no left foot, and you are having to parry that left-footed shot towards Davy Klaassen. Like, no, I'm sorry, no excuses. You're meant to be doing better than that. And that wasn't even a powerful shot. It was more or less a P-roller. So for me, I don't know what's happened. I think is a lack of confidence, and I think it's the fact that Kepa has taken his place as Chelsea's starting goalkeeper. Maybe that has a part in that, but he looks a shadow of the keeper that looks so dominant for Chelsea and was called by Chelsea fans as the best goalkeeper in the world, which is diabolical in the first place.
It's a lack of confidence argument, because this downfall happened after he just had one of the high points of his career. He just won AFCON with Senegal. He was the hero in the penalty shootout, saving some penalties, and then afterwards he just fell off a cliff, should we say. I just think with him, what it was one of them spells for a goalkeeper where they weren't necessarily targeting his weak points. Like, he's a good shot stopper when he wants to be. He's a good shot stopper, but that's about it. When teams start putting him under pressure, when teams start forcing him into positions that he doesn't like, they start exposing the weak points. He struggles with it, and that's where this whole downfall has come from. People have figured out Edouard Mendy, and that happens with goalkeepers. It's just whether he can evolve his game now to try and cover off them weak points. You're never going to get rid of them completely, but can you cover them off better than how you've been doing it at the minute, where you're parrying P-rollers from 20 yards out into the direct path of a striker? Because the first one can happen. I can see that one. Sometimes the striker just beats to a ball. He probably didn't expect Cody Gakpo to jump that high. But the second one, that is a criminal mistake. That even if you're parrying it, even if you're not comfortable collecting that, parry it back out. Don't parry it directly to David Klaassen. Like, you pushed that straight to him. It was actually a fantastic assist. If someone's laid that off on their feet, that's perfectly wasted. He couldn't have done much better with it. So I don't see where he goes from here.
I mean, I'm going to be real and honest with this. Mendy is a bang average keeper. Before Chelsea bought him, who knew about him? Really and truly, who really knew about him?
Well, the narrative was that Petr Cech scouted him, and Petr Cech was like, he's going to be the goalkeeper for the next 4 to 5 years. That's the narrative behind it.
Well, we've even you, Ram, you've heard me discuss with Chelsea fans that their scouting system has been so poor over the last how many years. But when we're looking at Mendy, he had that one season where he was brilliant and he had a world-class season. But I look at it, and Terry will agree with me on this, I look at it as a 3-4 year system. How good are you in 3-4 years, not just in one season? And what I saw was that Chelsea's defense was also good that season, so it helped Mendy out a lot. Even though his shot stopping, sorry, I forgot the word, shot stopping ability was there. However, there was a lot of weaknesses which were not, as Tom said, was not being exposed that season. Coming into a season where there's a lot changed now, a lot of people are finding out Mendy. There's a lack of confidence there, but it's also just you're going back to the norm. Bang average. That's what you are, really and truly.
Yeah. No, it's great points being raised there, boys. Really is. I'll do a few comments that have come through. First one was a super chat that says, "Evening, Terry. It's not cheap flying out there. Tickets cost close to £1,000 per person for a family of 4." I don't know anyone else. Like anywhere that you fly now that you're flying for more than say 4 or 5 hours, £800 to £1,000 is about the going rate, to be fair. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's expensive per se, but yeah, it's and depends what airline you fly with as well, because some of those airlines that fly there for that, like that £1,000, that's better than the holiday. Like some airlines are great. So I've flown some places. I flew to LA not long ago, and it was such a good air. I didn't want to get off the plane. Like that was the holiday. It was the best bit. I disagree with Terry. The 2010 Spain team would win this World Cup. Technical ability is king. Listen, I understand that technical ability is very important, but technical ability coupled with physical prowess is better than just technical ability. I'm not saying that Spanish team didn't have any power, any pace, any strength, but what you need, if I look at England right now and compare them to a lot of the other nations, if we can hold our bottle, we've got as much ability as most nations and more power and speed than most as a combination. Does that make sense? Brazil, I feel, have got that. I feel that Argentina have got that as an example. I think France, a lot of people saying they're lacking, but they've got that combination down. I look at Spain as an example, and I see a technically gifted group of players, but do they have that bite? Do they have that edge as well? I think that's
the thing with that 2010 team, that era they played in. They defined an era because of how good they were, but everyone else was trying to copy them. Everyone else was trying to be technically superior and sacrificing their physical attributes. If you were to put that 2010 team in, they'd do well. They'd dominate the ball. They'd have wonderful passing moments. But there'd also be games where they just get battered off the park because football teams are very physical. That Senegal team, that midfield today, that was three DMs that just wanted to run into people.
What Germany did a few years later, where they had similar levels of technical ability, but they were just, for me, superior athletes. It just changed the game, and that's why there's eras of football, and it's like that's why it's hard to compare a team from 20 years ago winning with a team now, because styles change and physicalities change, and things are always chopping and changing. And in maybe another 20 years' time, it will go back to that again. You know, the football is very cyclical in that way.
I mean, if I could put in one more point, who did Spain play in that 2010 World Cup final?
Netherlands. That was a pretty good Netherlands team as well.
That was a pretty good Netherlands team, but they beat them. Got fast forward to the next 4 years, who beat them 5-1 in the group stages? Netherlands. With what? Physicality and pace and power. With the way Robin was running them ragged, Van Persie as well. That, like it does prove the point that you do need a lot of physicality and power to coupled with technical ability.
Even though you talk about the big names for Spain that were technically gifted, they still had some pretty physical players in terms of like speed. Jesus Navas is no slouch.
No, they did, and I'm not suggesting that they didn't have it. My point was actually that's why they were the best, though, because they had the best combination of those two things together, and it's about those. And what I'm saying is, when I look at certain European teams that are technically gifted, Spain and the Netherlands both sit in this category for me. I look at them and think that. And what I actually said earlier isn't that Spain can win now. I said that if you just try to play pure tiki-taka football now without physicality, you'll get beat. There's a comment, here from Twisted that says, Terry, what's your opinions on Frenkie de Jong? Frenkie de Jong looks like a player that hasn't been a first teamer this year. That's what it looks like to me. Frenkie de Jong needs to move to a club that wants him. He needs to move to a club where he's going to play regularly. He needs to move to a club where he's going to play week in, week out with the best DM in that league. And I'm not talking about Liverpool. I'm not talking about Man City. He's got to move to a club like that will get him back to his best. Because Frankie, you're looking desperate out there, de Jong. You're looking desperate. Man was grabbing up men tonight. He was. That looked painful. That did, but
yeah,
man got stretched off. That ball bag must be. Bitch,
I was a bit confused because I was thinking, is he really hurting and he just needs to calm down because of the wind, or was it? Oh, you actually injured him? But
do you know what's mad, right? I remember I was in the gym once with. I wasn't sparring that day. I was doing bag work, and there was two guys in the ring, and one guy threw the hardest low kick I remember, and he shin hit him right in the nads, and I heard a crack. And they called an ambulance, and he went off like this. And I didn't get involved because I didn't know the guy that got kicked. He wasn't someone that I was familiar with in the gym. And I went up to one of the trainers. I said, did he kick him that? Oh, the cup broke. I thought the cup snapped. Went, no, that was basically his ball bag exploded. And it was exploding. I was like, whoa, yeah, you can get some bad injuries.
All right, thanks for telling that, Terry. Thank you for telling that.
I've got an even better one than that, right? Legitimately. The girl I used to work with, whose sister was a doctor and a surgeon, and she got called, like it was like a last minute thing. We need you. She had to go to Iraq, and she just assumed, and she knew she used to specialize in the men's private areas, and she just assumed that a soldier had his balls shot off. Right? She got there, and the guy was missing. Like he basically had disintegrated ball bags. Because they were in the shower rooms. You know, you spin the towel around.
Oh.
The towel hit right on it, and basically one of the balls was just in bits. And I know everyone who's watching now has got pain in their belly.
I just saw one comment saying, "Brother, I'm eating right now."
I'm sorry, bro. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's been a time here in England. I'm sorry, my people. I really, really am. But that looked painful for him. This comment here from Supreme says, overrated, don't care what anyone says. He's like 5 or 6 moments where he gave the ball away in dangerous positions. If Senegal were more clinical, he would have cost us. I assume you're talking about Frenkie de Jong.
Again, that's the style of play he is, though, isn't it? For the type of play he has to do in that Netherlands team, because let's be honest, no one else was doing anything. He has to play riskier passes. He has to take more risks naturally. And as a result, he will give the ball away more. So you can't get onto him. It's the same argument that happens with Bruno. Bruno gives the ball away loads. Yeah, because he's playing risky passes. Look, if Frenkie de Jong had, let's say, Koopman next to him, someone who's a little bit more comfortable on the ball, had the ability to play them passes, he wouldn't have had to play as many. He wouldn't have given the ball away as much. You might be saying he had the best performance. I thought he was all right. I thought his cross for the Gakpo goal was a brilliant ball. Begging to be headed in, and Gakpo got there. And overall, most good things that Holland done, Frenkie de Jong played a part in. But as you were saying, he just looks half a yard off the pace at times because he just isn't playing enough. That's all.
Could I make a suggestion? In terms of the sort of like number 10 role, I know he's relatively young, but would you consider Xavi Simons being in that number 10? Because it's better than what they've done already.
Worse than what they've done. That today was that Senegal team, because we need to talk about that Senegal team and just how they set up. That was not a midfield that Holland should have been struggling against.
No,
that was a Leicester DM, a Nottingham Forest centre back, and who was the other one? There was Everton. Idrissa Gana Gueye. So that was 3 low-end Premier League clubs, because Leicester haven't been great this season. And they were just set up to kick people. There was no attempt to match Holland at their own game, pass, try and pick them apart. They were just there to kick them. They were there to tackle it and kick it long. I think Senegal won every single one of their midfield tackles today. I'm pretty sure I saw that stat. They won every single one of them. Obviously, Holland aren't going to come up against that every game. That was an extreme version. So maybe they'll do a little bit better against other opposition. But that's still got to be concerning when you're getting outworked by a pretty poor. It just kind of game was all right, but overall a pretty poor Senegal midfield. That Senegal team just looks like the only chance they're going to have it, because people were picking them to be dark horses before Sadio Mane got injured. The only chance they've got of doing anything is if they just take games to pens. They outrun the other team. They outwork the other team, because I'm sorry, Boulaye Dia is not scoring a goal this tournament. Ismaila Sarr is going to get one at most.
Yeah.
And Crepin DISATER, he had a good cutting. It was like Iron Robin, but without any of the ability. He done the cutting, but it just didn't go anywhere else after that.
I think the Ecuador
attack is just so ropes.
I think the Ecuador versus Senegal game is going to be very interesting, because I can't really judge Ecuador too much because I think Qatar that crap. But Senegal, let's see how they pick it up against what's their names, Ecuador, and that will literally be the game. Whoever wins that, yeah, they come in second in that group.
I agree. I agree with you on that. Unless, because I don't think Ecuador or Qatar will beat the Netherlands now. I think winning that first game for the Netherlands. That's what I do think about this game as well, though. I think I said it at the top of the show. We have to be mindful that I think both just didn't want to lose, and maybe they held back a little bit. Maybe even a case of, maybe this isn't even would be our main teams, because because of the two teams that are left in it, they're both going to fancy themselves, especially the Netherlands, and getting the goals together where they did. What was your thoughts on Gakpo? Because of course Gakpo has been linked to a number of Premier League clubs, Man United, Arsenal, and others. Didn't get the winning goal, but he got the all-important first, as it were. Really clever header with the back of his head. Impressed with his performance overall, or is there still a lot left to be desired about this man?
I'm going to ask one question. What's his actual position?
I don't know. I don't know, because he normally plays left for Eindhoven, but he looks better in the middle. So it's just one of them. Big up Kesh, because he knows a lot more about Dutch football than I think all of us. But he believes that he's more suited as a centre forward because he's just that big and he's that physically dominant compared to other players. He would be more suited as a striker.
He plays as an inside forward or striker. I think the problem with him right now is that, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Dutch football. Only an idiot would do that doesn't watch it. I've seen him. This is the 6th time I've seen him play. I watched him against Arsenal twice. I've seen this second Dutch game I've seen him playing, and I watched him in both matches against Rangers earlier on in the season. It feels like every time he plays, someone puts him in a different position, which shows he's got talent. But what I think he really needs is to be put, and maybe he gets this week. Maybe this is why he scored so many goals this season. I'm not watching these games. Maybe week in, week out, generally at PSV, he's playing in one position and he's dominating. But the games I've seen him in, I've seen him left, I've seen him right, I've seen him up top. Today, it felt like he weren't even the main striker. He felt like he was playing behind the striker. Maybe it was the 10. Yeah, that's how it looked to me watching on the screen. So, yeah, I just want to see him given a role and maybe let him master that first before you start rotating him and moving him around everywhere. I think that's going to be key. But he took his goal well. Like, there's something about him, but he reminds me of Darwin Núñez. It's almost like I'll see some brilliant stuff and then I'll see some really bad stuff. And I'm like, as a United fan, we're linked with him. I don't know if I want him, because I just feel like for all the good things, there's loads of bad stuff. I get Lukaku vibes. Do you get what I mean? It's like,
I think with that, with signing up, because I've seen a couple of games with him, and I agree with you, Terry. That's why I said ask the question, what position does he play? Because I've seen him playing in many different positions. I don't even know what his best position is. But with him, there's a player there. There is a player there. However, if you're going to buy him, it's a risk. It's a risk where you need to know what you're doing. And you need to know what system he's going to work in and what position he's going to thrive in. If you do not know, this guy he's just going to fall away to the wayside. And to be fair, if Erik ten Hag wants him, for the level of manager that he is, I will slightly trust him to get the best out of him for the level of manager Erik ten Hag is. However, it is a very big risk. Very big risk.
I don't think it's that big a risk, to be honest. I like what I see. It's just about getting... He doesn't need to learn anything else. That's one of the big things. He's got good movement. Stuff that you can't teach a footballer. I'll rave on about this, though. Stuff you can't teach a footballer, he's got. Certain strikers just have that. And Gakpo it's not the top, but he's got it and you can see it. It's just about the consistency when he moves leagues. Obviously, it'll be a big step up from the Eredivisie. And give the man, whoever he signs for in the Premier League, if it is, you have to know, like you said, where you're going to stick him. You can't have him doing one game on the left, then one game in the middle, one game on the right. He's not going to be able to develop that consistency. He's coming to one of the most important parts of his development now. The first major move to a big club, he just needs the trust and the consistency to find himself. Once he's done that, you'll be sound. You'll be sound as a player.
He's not a baby either. I had to check this. He turns 20. He's 23 now. He turns 24 in May. Like he's no baby. So it's about he needs that move and that consistency. But as Neek says here in the comments, and it's right, he's only going to cost around 30 million. In the modern day sense, that's not the biggest risk in the world. And I agree with you, Sam. If Ten Hag was to buy him, I'd trust him because so far Ten Hag has done pretty well with these signings, if that makes sense, and they seem to work really well.
Just a quick question: isn't it more like a Dutch thing where a lot of the players that they produce are known to be multifaceted? Like they know how to play in multiple positions. So, well, I think it's an example.
I think it's a Dutch thing.
Wijnaldum was one as well.
Yeah, but I think it's a Dutch thing to an extent. But I think if you're the thing is with Dutch football, you could argue that they're in the top 3 most technically proficient nations in the world. And if you're technically proficient, so you've got a good first touch, you've got good passing ability, you've got a good understanding of the game, that in itself enables you theoretically to play in multiple positions because your touch won't let you down, your passing ability is good. Of course, then strength and physicality, awareness is going to be very, very key. So that works out whether you can play in central or wider positions, deeper positions, whatever it may be. But yeah, I think there is an element of that, but it can also be a hindrance, as you say, depending on who your manager is and what club you're at, you know, especially when you're at PSV. And again, when I've watched him play 4 times this year, he's been against Rangers and then against Arsenal, where they weren't the better team in the majority of those games. So they're utilizing him in different areas and positions to cover holes and problems. What we haven't seen from Gakpo is him play, I haven't seen, I'm sure viewers of the Eredivisie have, when he's playing in a team that's superior to his opponents or as good as his opponents, and he's played in his natural position and it's just go toe for toe. That's what I want to see a little bit more of. And you lot, I know he's been injured this year, but when you guys signed Diego Jota, there was a feeling of, Jota can't score enough goals for us. And that's because you were watching him try to produce in a much poorer team. He goes to Liverpool and you see a much higher standard of play. For 25 million quid, 40 million quid, he's been a very good signing for how much he costs in the modern day game. So yeah, it will definitely be an interesting one. Viewers, listen, we're live after the US of A take on Wales. Later on this evening. They kick off in about 15 minutes. We're live after that game. Myself, Colin, is here in the studio with me. We're live after that to review that game and then just to take a pit stop at everything that has gone on today. We're talking not just the games, we're talking about the banning of the armbands and much, much more. So tune in at full time later today. Make sure you're all there, people. Samuel, Ram, and of course, Tom Little, thank you all very, very much for coming on and having your say. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless.